Dozens of residents at two Gatlinburg weekly rental motels are without power tonight. The renters at Creekside Inn and Ski View Motel say it happened suddenly with letters placed on their doors last night. We received several concerned phone calls and emails about the confusion. 10 News reporter Daniel Sexton is live in Gatlinburg to sort it out, and renters there trying to figure out what to do next. Daniel?
That's right, John. We're outside of Ski View right now, which is one of the two motels without power. And all day long we've been here listening to folks talk to each other up on the balconies behind me, talking to us, trying to figure out what's going on here. People living at Creekside and Ski View motels in Gatlinburg got this note from the property owners saying due to issues between Sevier County Electric Service and the previous landlord who recently died, power would shut off at 8 Wednesday morning. Short notice for Kelly Stanley, who's lived here for years.
I mean, there's a lot of us that are really good people. They won't do nothing. They won't help us. There's nothing we can do.
Residents showed us receipts from rent payments collected as early as Tuesday. But Stanley Stiles with Sevier County Electric says the company never got paid. He says there's no reason the tenants should have gotten such short notice.
We're assuming that it was just thrown on them sort of under the shadow of the night, and that was not the case. We've worked with the city of Gatlinburg. We've worked with attorneys to try to keep the power connected at that location.
Stiles says usually power is cut off 10 days before the second past due bill, but in this case the bills weren't paid for months. The city of Gatlinburg wouldn't go on camera, but said in a statement it's aware of the situation, but says the matter's between Sevier County Electric and its customers and hopes it's resolved quickly. The attorneys for the property managers also declined to comment. Meanwhile, the people living at the two low-income motels are waiting, without power, hoping for help.
If there's somebody that knows what to do to help us, please. We all need help. The Smoky Mountain Rescue Ministry is offering help for these people at these two low-cost motels without power. And coming up at 6, we're going to take a look at this landlord and his history of legal battles with the city of Gatlinburg. Back to you.
Daniel Sexton on the story. Thank you for the update tonight.